Young and the Restless full episode Wednesday, December 4th. Sharon Newman is faced with a choice that could change her life. After being forced to plead guilty, Sharon feels like she's caught in a trap of her own making. Her decision to change her plea is a bold move, but she feels like she has no choice as her life is falling into irreversible disaster. Does Sharon really want to give up everything she's built, or will she choose a different path, even if it's risky and uncertain? Nick Newman has always been Sharon's supporter, and this time is no exception. He advises Sharon to wait a little longer, to let the lab retest the drug samples she took before making a final decision. Just wait a little longer, Sharon. I don't think what you think about yourself will change the outcome, but at least we'll have accurate information from the lab. Nick insisted, trying to convince Sharon that patience would bring better results. But Sharon no longer believed that anything could be changed. She was tired of making choices that always seemed to lead to failure. Would Sharon have the patience to wait a few more days, or would she follow the path she had set out? Michael Baldwin, the Newman family's top lawyer, did not miss the opportunity to convince Sharon to change her mind. He knew that if Sharon decided to take her guilty plea, she would not only lose her freedom, but also the future of those she loved. Michael tried to convince Sharon, "Don't do this to yourself. There are many other options, don't let one wrong decision cost you your life." But in Sharon's heart, perhaps Michael's words were just meaningless echoes, unable to fill the pain and disappointment she was suffering. Sharon, however, eventually agreed to listen to Nick and wait a few more days. She didn't expect any new news from the lab, but at least it would make her feel like she still had some hope. Once a person who always dared to face challenges, Sharon was now at a crossroads full of uncertainty, when everything seemed to be out of her control. While Sharon was struggling with important decisions, another story was gradually emerging at society, where Claire Newman and Kyle Abbott had a mysterious encounter with a woman whose appearance was full of deception. She, with a smooth British accent, claimed to be a completely new person, but for Claire, there was something strange about this woman that she couldn't ignore. The inexplicable feeling of familiarity made Claire skeptical about this woman's true identity. Jordan, who was in disguise, understood that she needed to maintain her cover of mystery if she wanted to continue with her plan. She was used to deceiving and manipulating others, and this time was no exception. After creating an awkward conversation, Jordan left quickly, leaving Claire with mixed thoughts about this woman. Although she couldn't be completely sure, the feeling that they had met somewhere before couldn't be shaken from Claire's mind. After this meeting, Claire continued to seek out Kyle. While Kyle and Claire began to enjoy intimate moments together, a distinct change in their relationship also began to appear. Both of them sensed that this relationship could develop in a new direction, a direction they had never imagined before. When Summer Newman entered the society, her eyes immediately stopped on Claire and Kyle. She couldn't help but feel a distinct unease as she watched them sitting at the table, chatting and seeming closer than ever. In a moment of jealousy, Summer began to feel uncomfortable. She stepped closer to Kyle, trying to keep her cool, but the tension in her voice was unmistakable. "So your relationship with Claire has progressed?" Summer asked, trying to make the conversation sound like genuine concern for Harrison Abbott, Kyle's son. But no one could deny that Summer's concern was not only for Harrison, but for her own relationship with Kyle. She couldn't hide her jealousy as she watched them close together, and it made her question whether she wanted Kyle back, or if she just couldn't let go of their past. Sharon Newman stood alone in her room, the dim light streaming through the window creating a somber atmosphere. Facing her was a decision that could never be reversed, a choice that could completely change her fate and the fate of those around her. Her whole life seemed to have been turned upside down in the past weeks, as she was forced to face a confession that she was not entirely sure could be true. And now Sharon could not avoid the haunting question: should she change her plea and accept the irreversible, or continue to fight? Nick Newman, who had always been by Sharon's side, tried to convince her to find another way. He knew that rushing would not bring any good results. "Sharon, wait," Nick said in a calm but determined voice, sitting down next to her. "We'll get the test results in a few days. Don't do anything you'll regret now. If there's anything we can do to change things, we will." But Sharon remained silent. She couldn't help but feel that she was tired of waiting. She had lived a life haunted by lies, bad decisions, and inevitable consequences. The doubt and disappointment in her heart made her lose faith in any promises, even Nick's. "You don't understand, Nick," Sharon replied, her eyes sad. "Time has passed. What I did, what I went through, I probably can't change. Nick sensed the desperation in her voice. He gently took her hand, trying to give her some strength. Sharon, you're not alone. I'm here to help you. We'll figure this out. Although she had little hope for the test results, Sharon decided to wait a few more days. At least she could feel that she had not completely given up, that there was still a glimmer of hope. At the same time, Michael Baldwin, the famous lawyer of the Newman family, continued to increase the pressure on Sharon. He knew that if she chose to follow Nick's advice and not rush to plead guilty, there was still a chance to save the situation. However, Michael could not help but worry about Sharon's future. Sharon, he said, his sharp eyes looking straight at her, if you really want to change your life, don't let your emotions rule. You can start over, but it will require patience and reason. Sharon looked at him. Part of her understood what Michael said, but the other part could not understand why she was still trying to find a way out. That's easy for you to say, Michael. Sometimes, when everything is too much, you just want to give up, she replied softly, looking out the window, where the light was fading. Michael didn't give up easily. He was a relentless fighter for justice and truth, and that applied to Sharon as well. You may see it as a final decision, but the truth is, we have more options than you think. Don't lose everything because of one mistake. Though not entirely convinced, Sharon knew that Michael only wanted the best for her, and she couldn't let bad decisions destroy everything she had worked so hard to build. So, she agreed to be patient a little longer, waiting for the results from the lab. While Sharon was lost in anxious thoughts about the future, Claire Newman was facing a completely different situation. She and Kyle Abbott had just had a romantic evening at society, but they had no idea that a strange encounter would change everything. A woman with a smooth English accent approached their table. She introduced herself as a new friend, but Claire couldn't shake the feeling that she had met this woman somewhere before. Jordan, who was pretending to be someone else, was using a clever disguise to create a cover and hide her plot. She only wanted to make a short conversation to distract Claire and Kyle, but during the conversation, a suspicion gradually arose in Claire's heart. Have I met you somewhere before? Claire wondered while observing this woman with a sharp gaze. Jordan, realizing that his plan might be discovered, quickly and quietly left the table without leaving a trace. Claire felt that something was wrong, but couldn't figure it out. After this encounter, Claire turned back to Kyle, who was sitting silently, as if he hadn't noticed the strange thing that had just happened. Claire and Kyle's relationship is slowly changing, even if it's just in small moments. They didn't expect that the woman would bring a little instability to their relationship, but then they continue to enjoy their time together, sharing feelings they never had before. Kyle begins to realize that Claire is not just a friend but an important part of his life. Subscribe to Yonder to get the latest news on our channel.